welcome to Rise and Shine with Alissa. I am your hostess, Alissa Bakar, the consultress, here bringing you interesting and innovative conversations from the front lines of entrepreneurship. I have the pleasure and the privilege of having amazing conversations with individuals who are doing things out of the ordinary in this age of disruption where nothing is normal, everything is new and up for review. And this conversation I'm about to have with Mr. Ken Lewicki is no exception. Ken, welcome to Rise and Shine.
Yay, welcome. Thank you for having me, Alissa. I'm so excited to be here. This is just like you said, the cutting edge of and the pioneers of what's coming up in the future. And it's nice to be on the pioneering edge of society today.
You know what? And that is just exactly why, we connected in a seminar about a dozen years ago around accessing our true potential and realizing, the inner us that we're meant to become. And in the decade plus that we have been connected, you have made some amazing shifts and growth in your life and in your work. So when we first met, you were a Canadian resident, and now you have the privilege of living where?
In Bali, Indonesia, which is great. Bali is just phenomenal place. It's called the Land of Gods. And yeah, it's so spiritual. So many lovely, amazing, talented practitioners and spiritual entrepreneurs come here to Bali, and the Balinese people are so genuine and friendly and honest and amazing people. Yeah, I love it. Love Bali.
Well, so tell me a little bit about what brought you to Bali. I know your work is in the spiritual realm, helping people. So tell me a little bit about that passion that you have for helping people, and then how it brought you to Bali.
Yeah, good question. So I teach people how to channel for a living. And I made two commitments when I started in this industry over 20 years ago. And the two commitments that I made is one is that I would always have that childlike enthusiasm and excitement about spirituality. I would never just be like, no, that's just synchronicity. No. I'm like, no, what? That really happened? I always keep that childlike excitement about it. And then the second commitment that I made is that I'm not going to be one of those hypocritical kind of teachers that be like, okay, well, I'll teach you to do this, but you do this, but I'm going to do something different. And it's no. I live, breathe, eat, sleep, everything that I teach my students. So in about a little bit over a year ago I got very, very strong guidance that I'm meant to move. And I'm like, oh, okay, so where? And I pull up my phone. I'm like, okay, well, there's Costa Rica. Oh, it feels pretty good. And there's Thailand. Oh, that feels pretty good. And then I'm like, Bali? Really? Bali? I didn't know anything about Bali. I knew a tiny little bit, but other than that, I know I've heard some people mention it here and there. And I'm like, okay, Bali it is. And my spirit guides guided me to come here. So I got rid of, gave away all my furniture. I sold my car. I found a home for my kitty cat, and I moved to Bali. And I've never been to Asia before. And here I am, just flourishing, thriving, prospering. Yeah.
I mean, that takes a lot of guts, right? To upend what it is that you built and the normal day-to-day that you have ever had. I mean, I've gone through a few transitions that required me to reimagine almost every aspect of my life. And I talk a lot about my move west over the last few years of uprooting, my family and moving to the countryside. But so what was that disruption like for you? If you could bring us back in time to what? Bali? Okay, so what were some of the things you had to tie up or figure out so that you could know that you would land, on your feet?
One thing is I've moved many times within Canada, from going from state to state or province to province or city to city within a country is a lot of work. It's a big deal and all that, right? But when you move to another country, that's a whole different ball game. And so there was so much things, like you said, I needed to tie up. I needed to, call the power company and let them know, all this stuff, and then let the banks know I'm traveling, let all this stuff, get executors and people who can, if something happened, I needed emergency funds. There's all these things. And then all that stuff I had to take care of. And then also I had to take care of the stuff of actually coming here. So I had to have a visa agent who was able to make sure I go through all my paperwork, make sure that's all in line, make sure I do everything above board. And that was months and months of preparation. And then to actually come here and find a place and get stable. And then, so like I still kept running my online business, but I had to kind of sort of tilt it. And like I didn't stop because I know I've learned that in the past where if I stop something completely with business related, I lose all traction, I lose all momentum. I'm not doing that this time. I'm going to keep some. So I kept doing workshops and one-on-ones, and it was chaos, but I didn't care. I was like, no, I'm doing it. And then even when I arrived, I gave myself like 1 to 2 weeks break, but I had a whole bunch of stuff booked after like the second week I got here. And I was like trying to play catch up from, going like this for 3, 4 months.
Yeah.
But I know you do it and you make it happen, and then you start to settle and get into a groove. And I had to really buckle down and keep reminding myself, like, I'm not vacationing. I'm actually living here, and I'm trying to like actually focus on working. And once in a while go see this tourist site, and then work, and then once in a while go see that tourist site and work. It's like a place to settle in because it's so many things. Like I said, it's the land of gods, and there's so many amazing like tourist places and waterfalls and beautiful events that are going on a regular daily basis. But it's like, no, sometimes I have to be disciplined and just like buckle down and get some work done in a good way. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and so I love what you said about tilting, not turning the lights all the way off on the business, because in any pivot, whether you're moving locations or changing your target market, like putting the dimmer switch on versus cutting bait and doing something brand new, that actually is more disruptive, right? So I felt
Yeah.
as you were describing your 3-month transformation from making a decision to making it happen, executing it, and then kind of grabbing back the reins on new terrain,
Yes.
you put the dimmer switch on and you kept executing. So what were some of the priorities that come to mind about that dimmer switch that you can share? Because everybody right now, I feel like, is in a pivot of some kind, and knowing how to
Yeah.
keep the lights dim, not necessarily full bore, is a really important aspect I would like to tease out.
Yeah. So there is a time and place when it is appropriate, but it's very rare, and maybe once, twice in a lifetime, if that ever happens. But there's a time and place where you just need to kind of like cut your losses, complete like lights off, and then switch lights back on another time, like totally different pivot. I do agree, like a full disruption. I've done it once or twice in my lifetime, but I've also try doing it the other way. Like you said, the dimmer switch analogy is great because if too many times it's too easy to just go straight into that off on. And I found for me that it's better for me to just like keep that momentum going, keep that. So I use the analogy of like a train. It takes a lot of momentum to get a train going, but once you get it going, it can pretty much self-sustain itself within reason. You have to keep like, priming it and putting, coal or whatever into the engine, like keep it going, choo. But for the most part, that momentum's going. So just by easing off a little bit, so you can take care of other chaos or priorities or other situations in your life, but never like get to a point where you fully stop the train. Because I've done that many years ago, probably about 15 years ago, and then again about maybe 12-ish years ago, and that does not work. It's so hard to do that. So what I try to do is I try to go, okay, right now, like if I'm looking at it, can I have maybe instead of like 3 to 5 clients a day, which is what I do now, maybe I can have 1 or 2 a week for the first little while, and then ease off on that, like reduce my schedule, my availability, and then push my workshops a little bit further into the future, clear off some of my schedule. Yeah.
Yeah, and so what I'm hearing is considering the volume of activity and bringing it in maybe a third or sometimes a quarter might be appropriate,
Yeah.
depending on the magnitude of your shift. So if you're looking to maintain your business, but add a new marketplace, maybe the business you maintain, you now get to apply the 80-20 rule to, right? Who is the top 20% that are creating 80% of those results and allowing some of those folks that you serve perhaps to fall off or move tiers in your business so that
Right.
you are leveraging your time better. And actually that's what creates the open window for the exponential growth beyond that. So I just want to honor you for, putting on the dimmer switch, keeping momentum, because like momentum, they say time is our only resource we don't get back. And momentum
Right.
has a lot to do with consistency over time. So when you stop momentum, you don't just
Yeah.
jump back in where you left off. It takes time to rebuild that level of volume again. So what happened after you moved to Bali? I know you have clients in the US and Canada. So what
Europe,
happened
Asia, yeah.
now that you're, 12 hours ahead of us over there?
Well, because I didn't stop my business, I kept it going. I actually was thriving like right off the bat, and I still am, like actually, if not even more. And that's the key though, right? Because I kept like I have a kind of a rule of thumb, which is post every day, keep that at least the analytics going on my social media, because I want to at least keep that momentum going, like on the analytics part. And that doesn't take too much time. Like I can whip that out in a relatively short period of time. So even in between the move, I'm like, okay, I need a break of packing. So I'm just going to whip out a post, and stuff like that. And, things like that. And, oh, it's in the middle of the night. I can't sleep because I'm thinking about, the moving stuff. So I'm going to, whip out a post and stuff like that. So what I did though, Alissa, is I had a relatively normal kind of window of opportunity, like window that clients could book with me in North America, which is like kind of the 9 to 5 kind of hours. But I didn't do anything before 10 because I worked really, really hard in my full-time day job. And then in the evenings and weekends, while I was raising my daughter as a single parent, full-time single parent, I was able to eventually quit my government job and my day job and do my spiritual business full time. So I'm like, okay, I get to choose my hours, which is one of the benefits of running your own business. And I worked hard for that. Like that was like 10 to 15 years of busting my butt. And then I was like, okay, nothing before, I'm not a morning person, so nothing before 10 a.m. And then I would go to about 8 or 9 p.m. But then when I came to Bali, I'm like, okay, in order for me to keep my clientele, I need to really open that window wide. So now it's like from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. But by the time my 9 p.m. one finishes, it's 10 p.m. But, I just have a nap in the middle of the day if I need to and things like that. You make it work.
So for you to move continents, you kept the same availability for your clients, and then did you become nocturnal?
No, I don't work in the middle of the night, 2 a.m. So
Okay.
most of my bookings from North America and Europe as well, most of my bookings are either really, really early in the morning, my time, or really, really late at night, my time.
Okay. All right. So you
Right.
figured out how to make your availability window work for where you are. And so it kind of seems like you split it up into, two segments where you're
Yeah.
not keeping yourself up all night, because I see a lot of folks that volunteer in some of the forums that I also volunteer in, where they're 15 hours difference from the location where the training or the event's being held, and they're literally on their computers at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I wonder how disruptive that is for the long term. So I'm glad to hear that you've found a way to match it out and make it work without having to disrupt your circadian rhythms too terribly much. Because that I
Yeah.
feel
And
like
then
is important to be able to live your life while make hay while the sun shines kind of thing.
and then the cool thing is, which it was kind of, I didn't really expect this, but I'm really happy about it, is the daytime slots are filling up with like people that are local or people in the Asian time zone or people in Australia and all that. I'm like, oh, okay. So like I had like 4 sessions today from like, and the first 2 were in the morning, and then the other ones were in the mid-afternoon for like my Australian clients and things like that, and Singapore clients or Thailand. I'm like, okay. And then European clients, because they're still, yeah, different time zones. So a lot of them actually book middle of the day as well, which is exciting.
Oh my
It's pretty cool.
goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you're serving like truly a global clientele.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you see often in your business that you're helping people through?
A lot of times, so I have access to over 100 different healing modalities. And through channeling, I'm able to, and I teach my students how to do this. So I'm able to like focus on and identify, okay, what's the root cause of what this person, like what's their challenge? So is it like, do I need to do past life healing, timeline healing? Is it like ancestral healing? Is it like their chakras, their aura, I could just go on and on. Like there's psychometry aspect, their etheric self. And I do they need like more, do they need to heal mother stuff or father stuff? Do they have childhood traumas, abuse and all that stuff? And I do that because like I do healing, but my primary focus is training and teaching people how to channel. That's my primary focus. What I've learned is that oftentimes they need clearing and healing so that they can be a more of a clear channel. Because my goal, my mission, my life's mission is to make this world a better place by teaching people how to channel. Part of that, though, is that I can teach people the mechanics of how to channel, which is great and fun and fantastic and all those other wonderful things. What I realized, though, is that I also need to do healing and clearing so that they can become a healthy practitioner, a healthy light worker, a healthy spiritual community member and citizen of the world, really, is what it's all about. So I do the healing and clearing along with the channeling training. And then, wow, look out, world, because now you have healthy light workers, healthy practitioners, healthy people that are, powerhouse people that can actually make a real positive impact in this world, because they're working on themselves as they're clearing their traumas and their suffering and their pain and all the other stuff that's been hindering them and holding them back for years. Now they can do amazing things because they're clear and more pure, and which is amazing, which is why I do what I do.
Yeah, so that is the essence of what I wanted to get at here. So for me, there's always the tactical, practical, and mechanical side of what we're about in
Yes.
our businesses. And then there's the essential, the being, the who you are that naturally come into play when you're creating value or, paying forward your unique value in the world. And so I love to hear that you're teaching people to channel, which to me, and forgive me if I'm naive here in the wording, but teaching people how to access their intuition in a way that is not projecting their trauma, not making the world even more murky because they're, trying to heal themselves by projecting onto other people and working out their stuff. People come across this a lot when it comes to helpers.
Yes.
They're helping them through their own baggage. And there is a measure of that to connect with someone to help them out when you're channeling information or you're helping
Right.
people with what you feel is intuitive. But I love that you're also addressing the channel itself. Like you're not just teaching the mechanics of how to do it. You're also saying, this is the place you need to come from. This is how to identify when you are clear and how to prepare yourself to be of the best service in doing the practice
Yeah.
piece.
Wow, you said that so eloquently. What's beautiful about what you said is, in my early days, so I started this whole journey, my awakening, in 2004. So it's been a long time, like over 20 years now. And there was times when people would be like, Ken, you like, they would point out all my like unhealthy behaviors, or call me on my stuff, and they'd be like, and my character defect, all this stuff that I'd be working. And I, after like many years of this, I'd be like, just shut up already, because I would want to fix it. I'd want to heal it, but I didn't know how. I didn't have the tools. And also I didn't have access way back then to the healers that are out there today. Like the healers are phenomenal. In the past 20 years, they've come so far. So people would call me on this stuff, but I even if I wanted to heal it and change my unhealthy behaviors, I still couldn't. And I know that dilemma. I'm just like, oh, that struggle of like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore, but I can't help myself. I almost like literally, and I know there's like the 100% responsibility and everything. And I take responsibility, but it doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to change or heal that behavior. So that's why I include in all my sessions, all my workshops, all my trainings, I include the healing with it to help to help complement the healing journey that they're already on their own, to go, okay, let's heal some mommy trauma, let's heal some childhood stuff that happened, let's heal some past life stuff, or the Akashic records healing, right? And stuff they may not even know that it's affecting them right now in this present moment, that is like subconscious or buried, but I can tell, I know what it is. I work with their guides, I work with my guides, and then I could heal that stuff. And they're like, oh, now I don't have to do that unhealthy behavior before, because it doesn't serve me anymore, because it just got healed, it got released.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and then now when they're doing their channeling and helping to make this world a better place in the way that they're meant to, they, like you said, they can do it from a healthier place, a healthier,
Yeah.
more pure perspective.
And a whole person perspective. So I think a lot of what gets lost in business is the doing piece. And it doesn't, and we forget a lot of times that there's the being piece, that without which the doing doesn't even matter or land, right? So addressing the whole human is part of, I think, where business is going in general. So, when I talk about my mechanics of helping people to build their businesses, I always talk about it using the simple methodology, this, simple acronym that starts with the tactical, the practical, the, the strategy, selecting the ideal person or what have you, the marketing, like all that stuff that we're taught, get a website, da, da, da. When you're in business, like you have to do all the things, but beyond doing all the things is also the who you are. It's the people end of the acronym. So I have SIM over here, and then the PLE is the partnerships, the leadership, and the empowerment. So without being a solid human being inside of the value you're delivering and you're doing, it's like that 90% of the iceberg, right? We only see the top 10%, which is essentially the doing of the business. In your case, is the teaching of the mechanics of the channeling. And the being piece, the what makes it actually stick, what makes it actually valuable is the who you are underneath it. And if you're always learning, you're always developing, we're never done. We're always evolving. And that's kind of the point of business, is to constantly create value to match the world where it is. We're in this huge age of disruption right now where we have to reconsider all of these things. And I think it's the blending of the doing and being that is going to take businesses to the next level. Whether your business is spiritual or tactical, these pieces apply.
You said something really magical there. It's the holistic piece. And one thing I'm really, really passionate about is the way that our parents and grandparents did things in the past just doesn't work for us anymore. It's not going to work for us. We have to do something different. And exactly the way you described it is by like leaders coming up now, new thought leaders that are coming up and that are healthy and whole and healed, like working on their journey and constantly like and then like you said, that under 90% of the iceberg, that part that they're actually healing and clearing that as they're becoming leaders in this new world, this new age that we're entering, that we've already started entering quite a while ago, but we can't do things the way that our parents and grandparents did it. Like that mentality is not serving us anymore, as you could tell, right? So we have to do it from a healthier, holistic viewpoint. I love that. Brilliant.
Yeah. I'm going to just, one more analogy for this is what we're talking about with grandparents' generation is industrial age thinking. So a lot of what we see in today's world is based on the concept of the assembly line, of creating machinery that's doing the jobs of what humans used to do. So we're having a reawakening of sorts back to the fullness of human potential and how we can interconnect with one another. Especially that, we have this whole new thing called AI that can literally do all the things for us. Like, where is our value? It's in the being. And if you're going to miss the boat if you don't actualize that human part of you, because the industrial age tried to replace humans with machines. And that kind of thinking, when brought and extrapolated out to where we are today, it doesn't actually fit us as a species. So learning how to embrace the age of disruption, I think the opportunity for us is to, as Alvin Toffler said in his book, The Third Wave, if you're into philosophy and reading real thick text, go give it a read, but is to be the most highly humane and highly technological society that humankind has ever seen. And that necessitates the threading back together, the doing and the being.
Yeah. And it's great as you're discussing this, because the imagery in my mind is exactly what leaders like us are doing. What we're doing is we're working on that holistic, the human part of it, because whether we like it or not, whether we agree with it or not, AI is here, it's going to be here, it's going to keep disrupting, and it's going to keep happening at an accelerated pace. But what we can do as humans is become more human. What we can do as humans is become more like whole and healthy and like just present and like, in our power, empowered, while embracing the technology, while embracing the change. I love it.
Heck yeah. I mean, and so together we will change the face of this planet for the better. Because humans unite, right? This is the time when we get to, shed all the things we thought were normal and embrace how much we all have in common. I think that's kind of the winning recipe for creating this next age where we're highly technological and highly humane at the same time. The inhumane structures have to die slowly or loudly, however that looks, right?
Yeah.
But businesses like ours, whether you're in real estate investment, building business as a practice, or teaching people how to heal and connect with themselves and therefore spread their value to the world through their spiritual aspects, these are what the new normal is going to be. We are
Yeah.
embodying that in our two very vast worlds. You see how much similarity there is in our overlap. And I think that's what we need to look for in this age of disruption, is not necessarily what the amygdala tells us is how to find the anomalies and find the places for fear, but to really look for the places where things intersect, to look for the commonalities, find ways to be together, just like we're being here together today, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the experiences I take my students through is in my channeling workshops, my training workshops, is I take them through, and I do this intentionally on purpose, is I take them through a past life regression where I actually have them relive a past life. And the reason why this is so valuable is because when they realize that, okay, reincarnation, we could talk about it all day long, but to actually relive it and experience it, go, wow. And then you realize you've lived a past life, another life on this planet in a different part of the world as a different race, maybe a different gender, different society, and on and on and on. All that racism eventually fades away. Like you can't be, how could you be racist against another race when you've been probably most races on this planet at some point in some lifetime? Which is like, so then when I get into my more advanced training and I tell people, I'm like, this is why I can't be racist or sexist, because I've been a female how many times? How could I be sexist against females when in past lives people have been sexist against me and I hate it, I couldn't stand it. So how could I do that in this lifetime? But then I take it a step further, and this is where it gets really cool, is not only have they been incarnated on this planet in past lifetimes, most people, pretty much everyone, has incarnated also on other planets in past lifetimes as well. And a lot of these species on these other planets are highly evolved species, highly evolved people. And they've figured out, these species have figured out a way to overcome and surpass these kind of like competition and fear and anger and this dominance, and I could go on and on and on. Like these societies that exist in our universe, like whoever doesn't believe that aliens are real, I mean, just look up in the trillions of galaxies in our sky, like it's insane how many, there has to be life out there, and there has to be species that have been able to figure out a way to do this. And I'm like, well, why can't we? If I teach you that you've actually lived a past life, not just on this planet many times, but also on other planets, and that those societies, you've been able to figure it out. What if you bring those skills and those attributes and those talents and those qualities, those characteristics to this lifetime and start embodying those? What would your life be like as a highly evolved species?
Yeah.
As a highly evolved soul, as a highly evolved human on this society right now in this present moment with this day and age, what's going on right now? And how can I do this through example for others and be that leader, be that, mother, father, brother, sister, whatever it might be, parent to people, and like, spiritual or even just human entrepreneur. And, whatever that might look like, even if you're doing a job, how can I be that highly evolved person at my work? Like, how can I do this in my society, with my friends, with my family? And then when people are bickering and this and that's going on, go, wait a second, instead of me getting involved in the drama and everything that's going on, how can I rise above this? And just like, hold space, maybe help people change their perspective on things and go, oh, and then, okay. And every time I'm around Ken, there's just something like I feel like enlightened around him. Like
Yeah.
that's leadership.
Yeah, it's part of the becoming process, and it can really inspire other people when you don't jump in to the sandbox and start throwing the sand with other people. When you just say, "Oh, that's interesting. What if we build a sandcastle with it instead?" When you have the perspective to see it not as a push-pull, not as a mutual exclusion, not as tit for tat, quid pro quo. When you take things out of transactional thinking, it is
Yes.
very easy to see that there's multiple ways to do things, multiple perspectives that can be of service. And I think, whether or not you've had the experience or the exposure to have a past life regression or have access to higher consciousness in a cerebral way, who we are as individuals, as humans, is to actually find the connection. And I think I'm going to bring it all the way back. If we sum this entire conversation up in one giant bow, it would be look for ways to find commonality. And that is where healing and transcendence can occur. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a mother, a sibling, or what have you, looking for ways to understand one another is the way this new normal society is going to function. So get practiced at it. So Ken, I appreciate you and being here with us for this conversation. Where can people go to learn more about you or find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on my website right there, channelinginc.com. That's my website. I'm on all the social medias. You just put in my name, Ken Lewicki, and look me up on all social medias. I'm on all of them. I'm active. And also my website has all my my intro workshops, intro animal communication, intro channeling workshops, all my certification workshops, my ascension group healing, which is once a month. I do healing like on whole groups, really inexpensive. And I also do the Ask Ken show where people write in their questions and I live channel the answers, which is super fun, and a whole bunch of events. I probably do like over 15 events a month.
I will be on one of those here soon. So I so appreciate you sharing your valuable knowledge, perspective, and self with me here today and with us here on Rise and Shine. I will send you a hug across the seas. 12 hours, time and space just collapsed and we were able to be here together today. So thanks a million for sharing your perspective with us. And in the meantime, I will say cheers and rise and shine to everybody who's here with us now. We broadcast every Monday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. And so if you're in Bali, it's 7:30 p.m. Bali time,
Right.
every single Monday. So check us out. And Ken, thanks a million. As a pleasure. And it's been a really great conversation with you here today.
Thank you. I feel honored.